a few years ago, the bombings in Paris happened, and my cousin was one of the first person to be killed. And that just put a whole new perspective. Why should I continue to just dance? It felt like I was just doing what I wanted to do, and I felt that she deserved better from me. And somehow I couldn't speak about it. I couldn't think about it. I couldn't feel it because everything was just so raw and so violent and so I became a little bit depressed, and I was thinking about dropping everything and just going home and being there for my parents, being just human. But I realized that the only time I felt okay was on stage, performing, dancing. I think there's only one reason to dance. It's to make people feel better.
Welcome to State of Our Art Podcast, the internet radio show exploring music of the past, present, and future. Here's your host, conductor Thomas Fortner.
My guest today is a solo dancer with the Martha Graham Dance Company. Originally from France, she has danced major roles in iconic works such as The Bride in Appalachian Spring and The Chosen One in the Rite of Spring. During the pandemic, she has been teaching daily online classes from her garage, working on the Graham technique and spreading the philosophy that Martha Graham started, which has been so influential on the dance and art world. You can find her on Instagram at charlottelandreau.graham, and her classes are available on marthagraham.org. I'm thrilled to welcome my guest today, Charlotte Landreau, to the State of Our Art podcast.
Hi, Charlotte. How's it going?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So tell us a little bit about your background. You weren't always a dancer, right?
That is correct. So I was born in Strasbourg in France, and I started by training in rhythmic gymnastics for 10 years. I had a full career before changing career. And then I went to Switzerland and I got in a dance school. And there I learned, I did my first demi-pliés there, which was actually insane. And I fell in love with dance, and they had what we call the Martha Graham technique. And I fell in love with that specific technique. And I just wanted to, learn as much as I could about it. I wasn't sure I could get a job because after 2 years of dance only, everyone was telling me that it was impossible. So my plan was to go to New York, study a little bit, go back to France, and do medical school. And that was 8 years ago. And I never left America. And I am now a full dancer for the Martha Graham Dance Company in New York.
What specifically about the Graham technique inspired you to, and what seduced you to come all the way to New York and leave your life behind and start this new journey?
When I came to Switzerland, the very first technique that we did was ballet. And it hurts a lot. It is such a painful technique. And I was like, I can't stay here. It hurts too much. And then we had a second class, and the other technique was the Martha Graham technique, and nobody knew anything about this. So we were all on the same level learning that new dance technique, and that I loved this about it. I discovered it, and somehow my body understood that technique much better than ballet. Also, I loved how human the technique is. It's based on the human breath and on the power of the pelvis. And the women, especially the women, are considered and represented as powerful beings on stage. And that's something that is so attractive to me, instead of just looking pretty on stage, on a ballet stage, on a ballet performance, just looking pretty and fragile, which I am not, which none of the dancers are. Even a ballet dancer is nothing, right. But it's nothing like it. We are such strong athletes. It's incredible. So to be represented like this on stage, thanks to Martha, really inspired me.
Let's talk about Martha Graham. Maybe some of our viewers and listeners don't know the story of Martha Graham and the influence she's had on the world of dance and the world of art.
Yeah, so some call her like the Picasso of her time, the Stravinsky of her time. She really influenced the dance world, the entire dance world, like no one else. So like maybe Balanchine or Nijinsky or maybe Baryshnikov, but she really changed the way we see dance. She was born in Pennsylvania and then she moved to California and she trained with Ruth Saint Denis, and then she came to New York because she decided that she didn't want to be a princess or a fairy on stage, but she wanted to be human. She wanted to be herself and dance real emotions. That's what was so shocking and innovative to of her time, is that she really wanted to represent rage, jealousy, love, like real human emotions. She also danced bare feet, which was so shocking, because at the time we were only dancing in ballet shoes or in pointe shoes. She danced with her hair down with so much, realness, that most of the people did not like her at the beginning. And then, like the Rite of Spring, they got used to it and they realized, oh my God, she is a genius and we need to get inspired by her. And she influenced so many artists over the world.
The way that I know Martha Graham is from
Yeah.
Appalachian Spring. So being a conductor, you open the first page of Appalachian Spring and it says Martha. You're like, okay, cool.
Who is that?
And you're like, oh, I better learn this piece fast, And my first professional gig, I met you on the first day of my very first professional gig at the Library of Congress, of all places, where Appalachian
What a place.
was premiered. Yeah, it was like a brush with history, or it was really surreal.
That's exactly it.
And I believe I walked in to the hall when you guys were doing a tech rehearsal.
That's right.
Final dress rehearsal without the musicians. And it moved me to tears to see you play that role and just to be there in the place that this piece of music that I had grown up with, that I felt represented somehow my Americanness, whatever that means, in a genre of music that's largely dominated by European music.
That's true. That's true. No, it's such a beautiful score, and even for us, then the Graham dancers, this piece is so important. So for those who don't know, Appalachian Spring, it, in the dancer's point of view, is the story of a young bride and a young groom that are getting married, and on their wedding day the preacher is on stage, the mother of the bride is on stage, and then 4 followers that are either in love with God or in love with the preacher. It's not really clear because he's so handsome. And that's it. So there are only those characters on stage, and the score is 44 minutes? Something like that. And we all enter and the stage, and we don't leave, and we stay on and dance like crazy for 44 minutes. Sometimes with the conductor it can go up to like 51 minutes, which I love performing with real musicians and like a live orchestra. It's incredible.
What is the difference you feel as a dancer? Obviously there's a large measure of unpredictability between the orchestra and the dancer. So you would think maybe that wouldn't be a good thing for a dancer who had performed. They want to be really precise. So why do you prefer live musicians?
So it is very, some dancers do not like having live orchestras because you have so much surprises that await you. But like obviously the tempo is going to change because we're human. We go with the heartbeat. Like we don't have a metronome in front of us, and we want to, depending on the feeling, obviously the slow music has a slower tempo. But I love performing with live orchestras because I can see the conductor almost in front of me if I just lower my eyes a little bit. And so I can see those movements, and so they inspire me even more to move with that person who moves with the musician that I cannot see, unfortunately. And it brings so much more life to the performance, especially when I dance alone. on a solo, not with the others on stage, I can really feel that connection between those artists that are in front of me and myself. And I love that.
Something that musicians, and especially orchestral musicians and therefore conductors, are always trying to seek is this idea of chamber music. Chamber music being, instead of having one leader, it's like a string quartet for people that are all together. And yeah, I also really love that connection. And there's some rare times, as both my history as an orchestral player and now as a conductor, where I can feel things gel like that.
Yes.
Adding yet another layer to that of physical representation of the music, something that I find really inspiring. I've always been inspired by ballet music, particularly the 20th century ballet music of Stravinsky, and also Appalachian Spring. And it's really the way that music is constructed has been a huge source of inspiration, and also a curiosity for me, because it's not the same technique that you would use for a symphony. It seems to come together in little shapes and pieces, and having the dancer finally be on stage and seeing that, it totally makes sense. And
yeah. I mean, it makes sense because Martha ordered that piece of music, that score, for the dancers. So the musician, the composer, did not only compose that music for musicians, but also for dancers. So it's really interesting when we have both of those artists just coming together and working together. And if I wish for something, I really wish we had more of those, more of those associations and performance together.
So the title of this podcast is called State of Our Art. It's an organic outgrowth of a educational project I have with my youth orchestra students, where we're trying to figure out where have we been, where are we, and where should we go next. And I think you have a pretty unique perspective on this as a dancer, but you're not just a dancer. I know you personally, and I know you have a very big philosophical bent, and you're going to be, you already are, and you will be a big thinker in this world. So how do you think we're doing right now? You said that you think maybe we should have more collaboration between dancers and composers.
I wish that we had, like Martha and Copeland, I wish we had more of that. Sometimes it happens with my company, with the Martha Graham Dance Company. They get in touch with orchestras and ordered scores of music for the dancers, but really rarely they allow the dancers themselves to be in communication with the musicians, like you and I met on that performance, but it just happened because you stayed right after the performance, the rehearsal, and I happened to sit in the audience to watch my colleagues.
And
but if I did,
I remember you gave me like some raisins.
Yes. For those people that do not think that dancers eat, we do eat, and a lot and often. So we always have snacks on us. But if I did not sit in that audience that day, we would have never met, which is too bad, because musicians and conductors are artists. So I think we should meet as often and as much as possible.
I find it difficult. I've always found it difficult in my career as primarily a classical musician, to feel creative, because oftentimes I feel that I must be recreative, because the music is music of the past, and obviously it's wonderful music, but I think to some degree in the orchestral world have fallen into becoming 1800s cover bands.
I understand.
I'm very passionate about the music of the 20th century and about the music of today, largely because of the creativity and the real diversity of the art that's being produced now. And I love the collaborative process between dancers and musicians. In fact, with my youth orchestra, we had a ballet concert. So we had the orchestra on stage, and then we had 4 different pieces of music being put together. And I love the new aspect of collaborating with a dancer, because it shows me a new way it gives me a new route into the piece. maybe a piece of music that I already know well. Now having
exactly, yeah, another point of view.
Yeah, another point of view, and that really helps light a fire that keeps me going.
I totally agree. It's like for us, for example, when sometimes we perform with other companies, but we do need to rehearse before that on stage, and not only once. We need weeks of being together on stage and understanding each other's bodies. How do you move? How do you understand the music? Because there are definitely different ways of understanding a beat, you know. And so I don't understand why we should not do that with orchestra. Sometimes when we travel, we get one live orchestra and we get maybe 3 hours of rehearsal on that day, and then the show is here, and then we perform, and then we don't even say goodbye because we've never met, you know. I don't even know who played for me. They don't even know who danced for them. Right. And I find it very upsetting, you know. But to come back to your comment on not creating and having that feeling of recreating, I totally understand that, because Martha created over 181 ballet for herself and her company. And so mostly what we do is to recreate her ballets. But I try to find for myself an inspiration for each role that I perform, and still put a little bit of myself onto that role. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not only Martha, she's not dictating how I dance. I am dancing what she wants me to dance, but as myself.
Yeah. That's probably the authentic way that you can really pull it off. And that definitely was to me when I saw you dance in DC. Let's talk about one of your most, I don't know, prominent roles, of one of the roles I'm most interested in, which is the chosen one. And that is like for sure one of my favorite roles of the entire repertory. So the chosen one is the solo role of the Rite of Spring by Stravinsky. And so again, so many choreographers choreographed on that score because it's so incredible. I've read somewhere, I think it was from Maurice Béjart, that said that music was so powerful that you had only two choices: either be eaten by the score because it was so powerful as an artist, or being that artist that eats the Rite of Spring score. So you only had two choices. Yeah.
And it's very unique. But in Martha's point of view of the dance, she so obviously it's a virgin getting hypnotized by the shaman, and the shaman has to kill her. But in most Rite of Spring, the chosen one is killed in the middle of the ballet, and then the male part keep dancing on top of her. Unfortunately, it's very raw and violent and beautiful. But in Martha's point of view, the chosen one is the one being enlightened, and she is like put in front of the stage instead of the back. Like, we need to kill her, now she's killed, let's move on. And in Martha's point of view, the chosen one is the one that we choose, that will bring the spring back, which is incredible. And I am killed at the very last second of the ballet. And again, it's a 33-minute piece of music. It's incredible. Yeah. And again, I stay on stage for 33 minutes. It's very hard physically.
So how do you die in the end? I mean, spoiler alert, but how do you, what's the method of death? Do you dance yourself to death?
I do dance myself to death. I have two incredible solos that actually, like, okay, not kill me, but are so difficult physically that I do not have to add any acting on top of it, because I my legs are shot at the end of the solo because I jump so much, I turn so much. My hair come twisted at the beginning, they come down because I'm dancing so crazy, because I'm sweating so much. The boys are sweating on me. It's absolutely disgusting and real, very real. I invite you to watch this ballet. It's incredible. And I just keep jumping from one side of the stage to another, and at the end I literally die because I've danced so much and because he's forced me to dance so much. And they lift me at the very last second of the ballet. They lift me to show my dead body to the entire community and tell them spring has been celebrated, a better time is to come.
It's the part where they lift you where the flutes go.
Bam!
Bam. You know, fun fact, in the bass part of the Rite of Spring, the double bass, the 4 notes in the double bass are D, E, A, and D. Dead.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Genius move.
I don't know if that was probably an accident, because at this time he wasn't living in America.
Sure? That's a genius move.
I have a feeling, I haven't done a harmonic analysis of the last chord, but it's actually...
That would be interesting to do.
As a conductor, it's a pretty difficult, well, it's an extremely difficult piece to conduct.
Yeah.
Because of the mixed meter and the things are always changing. Yeah. It's also that very last 2-3 measures is really difficult, because from an interpretive point of view, if you follow it strictly in tempo, I find it to be personally a little less
dramatic.
And the very last note is interesting, because there's a little grace note, 16th, kind of like a grace note, lump bump, and I sort of feel it as like 2 gestures. So there's the lift, and then whomp. How do you
totally.
do it? What's after the lift? Like, what's the last chord? What is that?
So I've seen it, because like I've performed with live orchestra and with no like recordings of this music, and I always see the poor conductor in front of me at the very last. He is as tired as me. He is as sweaty as me. It's incredible. Like, the poor thing is just giving his life to make sure this music goes to the end. And so for the dancers, so I get lift on that, and then all the dancers fall to the ground together. They're in a circle and they all fall to the ground, boom, and then the last one, they just extend their arms. So that's why it goes so fast for the dancers, because it goes boom.
So it is 3 things. It's bloop, boom, boom.
Exactly. But you can't just like fall and then have silence and then extend the arms. It just kills the piece. It just, timing wise, does not make sense either on the music or on stage with the bodies of the dancers, you know. And that's what I love about the relationship of dance and music, is that when it doesn't work for one, it doesn't work for the other either, which is, it doesn't make sense, but somehow it works. It's incredible.
I think dance is the only other art form that I think is equivalent to music, as compared to painting or other visual arts. Or
I agree.
Because it's the only other art form that has to do with something happening over time, and that you can ask yourself a philosophical question like, what is the Rite of Spring? Is it do I have a score here? Is it this?
Yeah.
Is it all of this stuff in the score? Or is it no, that's just stuff on a page? Is it a physical recording of it? Well, no. It's someplace, it has to do with the what is life, right? It's the thing that happens between one point and another point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Same thing for us. Like, if you just dance like 1 step of the Rite of Spring, or even 10 seconds of the Rite of Spring, it doesn't mean anything. I've seen cast dancing it, and they're just, it's not working. There's no host modes. It's not working. It's not taking, you know. It's like you're trying to make bread and the dough does not take. It's exactly like this. Yeah, and then some other performance, somehow everything comes together and it's so magical. Like, it just, I have to tell you, like, when the Martha Graham ballet, that Rite of Spring, is opening, the curtain is down and everyone is off stage, and we hear that first music note that just, And just, I swear to God, every single time, even if it's a recording, my hair on my arms just goes straight up. It's incredible. And then the curtain goes up, and then the men enter.
Right.
It's so beautiful, and there's life on that score is life.
What is your process to learn that score? Because obviously, as musicians, I've played this as a cellist, and now I've conducted parts of it as a conductor. In fact, I even have my youth orchestra playing a version of it for the past 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And we have to. So usually music, most people think of classical music, it's very 1, 2, 3, 4. 8, always a 4, 4. Maybe you throw in a 3, 2. But
then comes Stravinsky.
And then comes Stravinsky, or you have 5, 8 measures, so it's an unequal. Or you've got 11, 4. You have 11, boom, boom, boom.
Oh.
The original dubstep.
So I had the chance to learn and to listen for the first time the Rite of Spring when I was in Switzerland. So that was not the Martha Graham Rite of Spring, it was the Maurice Béjart Rite of Spring. And his Rite of Spring is also incredible, very different from Martha, because here the men are put in front of the stage. They are the main character. Not the chosen one, even though we also call her the chosen one. She's in the background of the choreography, which is very interesting. But so we rehearsed it so much that just that music is just it's pounding. It's just all day long, and so your heart knows it by heart. Like, it's incredible. It's like your soul knows it now, and never again will you be able to listen to that music without thinking of the dance steps. Like, even like you're singing it right now and I see the dance step doing, like, it's incredible. So when I came to Graham, I already knew the music like very, very well. I didn't know the dance steps, but they gave us so many different versions of the ballet that I could choose which version I wanted. And what was interesting is that I could see from the different dancers listening to different scores and different way of listening to the score, and I could choose from that. That was very interesting to work on. So
there's different versions within the Martha Graham repertoire of this.
Exactly. The steps might be a little bit different, and then you can see in the way that dancer is listening to the score that she chooses this accent, whether to this accent or listening to this instrument instead of the bass, or the bass instead of the main instrument, which is very interesting.
Is it a correct summary of the Graham technique in general, that I was told that the Graham technique doesn't necessarily dance on the beat, it dances sort of around the beat? Is that right?
So we try to dance on the beat, which means that you have to move before the beat in order to arrive on it. When the ballet dancers move from the beat and then arrive whenever they want. So usually they arrive always after the beat. But what we do is that we move, if the phrase is 8, for example, I'm going to move on 8, sometimes even on 7, 8, and punch on 1 instead of 8, 1, arrive.
Right.
So we call that the modern way of dancing. I'm not sure that's correct on a musician point of view. I don't know, but it's very interesting to see on stage that everyone moves before 8 and arrive on 1.
So what you talk about the number 8. Is the Rite of Spring always in numbers of 8?
No, it keeps changing. So you can see that there are 2 different kind of dancers, the one that count and the one that listen. And I cannot count. Some dancers, they cannot listen to the music, they have to count. So they drive themselves crazy with like 8, 4, 3, 7, 11, 12, 24, 3, 1. It's insane. And I cannot do that. I cannot count. I know when this flute is coming. I know when the bass is coming. I know when this accent has to hit. Like I know almost every single note of that score because I cannot count it.
So you probably know it better than a lot of conductors.
I'm really not sure about this.
Well, it's interesting. That's sort of one of the big Everests to climb in the conducting world, at least, is to conduct it, and especially to conduct it from memory. Then you really got something going on.
Yeah.
One of my teachers in college, I played in the orchestra, and he was conducting it from memory. And so I went backstage after.
Wow.
I said, Maestro, how do you do that from memory? He's like, I just conduct the music. I do not count 1, 2, 3. I just conduct the music. And
oh my God, beautiful.
It's interesting because now that as a player, having experienced it, I need to know the beats, but if I'm looking at the conductor for the beat pattern, I'm screwed.
Interesting.
At that point, I'm counting. I do have to count sometimes. So some of the hardest stuff for us with this piece is that Stravinsky had this incredible music, but he even admitted himself he wasn't really sure how to put it down on the page.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
There are these moments in this score where, da-da, 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 da-da. At least the French Canadians, we called it score if you play in the merde. And so,
pardon my French.
Yeah, pardon my French. But it's one of those things where he drew bars over bar lines, and you're like, so what's going on here?
He just created that. It's just especially for this piece, which is incredible. Like, what a genius.
Yeah, and yet some people have rewritten it to make it a little easier on the eyes to read. In fact, if you look at most orchestra parts, especially in that spot, you'll see a history of pencil markings, like trying to make it easier on the eyes. And that's you always, you have to be really on top of things. And I mean, this is part of the magic of this piece. He lulls you into a pattern, and then he breaks it. That happens twice. And then it's different.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I well know. Even for the dancer, you're like, okay, I do it this once, and I do it this once, and then you jump. So many. It's so amazing to dance. But
it's a trap.
Sometimes,
how do you avoid falling into traps with this piece?
Oh, you rehearse it for 8 hours a day for 360 days, and then you go on stage.
See, so you just have to really, really have it down.
Yeah, and like every day, and especially when you have the solo role, your job is to hold the piece together. Obviously, the group dancers are here, but they're here to support you. They're not here to share the message with the public. It's your job. So if you're not doing your job well, or if you're doing mistakes or not being too convincing enough, the ballet does not work.
Right.
No matter how well the dancers next to you dance, you are the solo person. So it's on you. It's on you.
What role has music and dance played in your life? I know you've had some tragedy in life. What has this done for you personally?
Music has always been with me. I remember growing up, we didn't have the TV on. We always had music on. So even my mom was telling me that when she was pregnant with me, she would always play some classical music like Chopin that she would adore, or music, or Mozart, or opera music, and somehow it would always calm me down, stop kicking.
You are a dancer.
Yes, and also hyperactive, so that doesn't help. But somehow the music was already calming me. So I always had music with me, and then dance. So I fell in love with it, and then I came to New York, and everything was so exciting. And then I got into the main company, and I was like, oh my God, this is working out. This is amazing. And a few years ago, the bombings in Paris happened, and my cousin was one of the first person to be killed. And that just put a whole new perspective in my life, because I grew up with her and I was very close to her. And I just, wondered if I could not do something better with my life, something more impactful. Why should I continue to just dance? It felt like I was just doing what I wanted to do, and I felt that she deserved better from me. And somehow I couldn't speak about it. I couldn't think about it. I couldn't feel it, because everything was just so raw and so violent. And so I became a little bit depressed, and I was thinking about dropping everything and just going home and being there for my parents, being just human, But I realized that the only time I felt okay was on stage, performing, dancing. And my mom said something very, very true to me. She told me, I think there's only one reason to dance. It's to make people feel better. And that's what you do by dancing. And I truly think that music does the same thing for people. It makes themselves feel better. What do you do when you're sad? You put music on to make you feel better. What do you do when you're happy and you want to celebrate? You put music on. And what do you do when there's music on? You dance. And I truly think that the two of them are connected, and dance helped me feel better, getting out of depression, reaching out to people again, and just becoming myself again. And so every time I step on stage, I think of her, and I hope that she's proud of me. And every time I step on stage, there's always music going on, so yeah, it has been a journey, and it still is, because I'm still dancing, even with COVID, it's like we never had that many students reaching out and telling us, like, I'm stuck at home, I cannot go out for a walk, but if I can dance with you on Instagram, on Facebook, on anything, I would love to. And people have been dancing in their living rooms, in their I've seen someone dance in their bathrooms because their garage was occupied. I dance in my garage. Some people are outside, just in the garden, far away from everyone else. But dancing seems to be a way to connect with each other, like music is.
Let's talk a little bit about your Instagram here. So hang on, I got to switch. I had you in full screen for a sec because I wanted to. That was perfect right there, by the way. That we're gonna. Thank you. The top of the podcast. So.
Thank you.
So let's talk a bit about your what you've been really tearing it up on Instagram. You're teaching on your website as well?
Yes. So because of COVID, I am not allowed, and I cannot go back to the studios and rehearse and dance every day, but I still have to stay active and in shape. And so I started, just for myself, to take classes online. And so at first it was just for myself, and then my mom was like, oh, can I take the class with you? And I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. So I started to connect the Instagram live and the Facebook live, and more and more people started to join me and ask questions, and that's how I started teaching and just telling them about the gram technique. And most of them are American, and they don't know Martha Graham, which is so incredible to me, because she's an American genius. For European to not know, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's maybe understandable, but it should not be. And so it really, it really makes me so happy to tell them, you have a genius. Like, she was American. You should be proud of that. Yeah. And just to share her journey, her ideas, it's just incredible. So I've been doing that. And my company is now offering classes on Zoom. So we have more and more people reaching out to come dance with us. But last time, I think I have over 250 people taking class with me, which is incredible.
That's great. There's a lot of online activity in the symphonic world right now. We're sure trying to play we're teaching online, but we're also stitching together these videos. In fact, I saw one of the very first orchestra videos was from the Toronto Symphony when they did the opening of Appalachian Spring.
Exactly. Did you see our video that where we try to dance all over like us with the orchestra?
That. No.
You haven't seen it? Oh, I will send it to you because it's incredible. Everyone is trying to dance, you know, but like most of us don't have a proper floor. And others could like go into the forest far away from everyone else. And it's incredible. I love that video.
I personally, I'm a little bit worn out of the sort of Brady Bunch square thing like we have here where you see musicians, and like the Met Orchestra has done that, and it's really wonderful. But I'm trying to think of a new creative direction to bring that, and you just triggered something, a thought of
nice
dancing. Yeah, I was thinking about like time lapse or like aerial photography, cinematography, which is
wow.
But dance, that would be really interesting to collaborate on. So thanks for inspiring me.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're always looking for more projects, you know. I mean, when this pandemic started, I had no job, nothing to do all day. And again, I'm hyperactive, so I got to do something. Otherwise, I go crazy. So that's why I created my website and started training. And now my company is finally able to get us back working for them. So that's really exciting. And I'm very happy about that. But we're getting more and more busy, you know, and now I have something to do like almost every day, like multiple hours a day, and it's been a blessing.
I feel like I'm busier than I used to be when I'm
really. I definitely spend too much time on my phone right now. It's not great.
Problem. Yeah, I'm trying to turn that into something productive like a podcast.
Exactly.
Watching YouTube all day. So as a person who has experienced the art world in both sides of the Atlantic, can you talk a little bit about your experience of how music is perceived in these different cultures, and then therefore also dance on both sides? What role does high art or art music or classical music play in the average life of a European person?
Well, you know, I mean, cliches are here for a reason. I think they always start from the truth and then maybe distorted a little bit, but like Europe is definitely more artistic than America. So we respect painting, sculpture, dance, music, like so much more than America. And if I can say, please do not get offended. But dancers are just superstars in Europe. You know, in Russia, it's like you're a baseball player. It's incredible. In France, we love music. Like people go much more to concerts and symphonies more than even to the ballet. You know, like it's something that we love. Like it's somewhere to escape your life if you're having a hard life. Like you go to a concert, or like when we go to a bar. I've seen that in America there's always recording of music. In France there's usually a live musician on stage. You know, it's something that is very, very demanded. And then in Switzerland there's just so much. I mean, there's much more money, so you can see that the arts are doing like so well, so incredibly well. The dance community is incredibly talented. It's even the like the organization around the art world, like the studios are just so much better than in America. I want to say like the theaters, but you know, in somewhere in America, like it's beautiful theaters, but usually in Europe it's better. But and then when you come to America, it's such a like large country. It's incredible. It's so big that like you have many more artists that we do, like much more, which, you know, and from all backgrounds, from all styles, and somehow they seem very disconnected to me. It's like I'm doing classical music and I'm doing like rap music, and there's no communication. Like they would never hear from each other, they would never connect, they would never be in the same room. You know, which I find too bad. There's so many opportunities here if we tried a little bit. I saw that one tap dancer, very famous tap dancer, collaborated with Yo-Yo Ma, which was incredible. But again, it's two artists.
Right.
And everyone is like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is so beautiful. They had a hit with 14 million views on YouTube, which is incredible. So why don't we do that more?
This idea of genre and of, and this is a strong word, but segregation. I mean, even in the universities that I went to at McGill in Montreal, was a very, very strong jazz, one of the best jazz programs in the world. It was the jazz dudes and the classical dudes. And then at Peabody, they have just reinstated, or maybe, I don't know if there ever was a college level dance program, but they have a college level dance program, which just started, I think, a couple of years after I graduated. But I imagine that dancers and musicians probably don't, it's a different floor and it's a different thing. And
it's so sad.
The music world, the classical music world, we have singers and everybody else.
And I totally agree. It's same for us. There's ballet dancer, contemporary dancer, modern dancer, but we've been better about this for the past, I want to say, 5 years. A lot has changed. And especially because of social media, people connect with each other a lot more, and they're recommended people to follow. And also because in the athlete world, now we're talking a lot about CrossFit and cross training. Yeah. And so modern people take ballet classes and ballet people take grand classes. And so we start to really mix and confound all the worlds together, and that has been giving birth to even stronger artists and dancers, and that's very interesting.
You could use the metaphor of a biological a diversity of an ecosystem. The more diverse an ecosystem is, the stronger and the more resilient it is. I think exactly what we need in our arts organizations. We absolutely need to keep playing our 1800s cover band music.
Yes, I think so.
It's the framework of what we have, but we also have to get away from the classist area. I know that we've been making a lot of progress in the last, let's say, 5 years. Myself personally, and also my colleagues, I was running something called Classical Revolution Montreal, where we played everything from the Beatles to brand new music to and Bartok and Debussy and Mozart in a cafe or in a bar.
I love that. That's incredible.
My favorite gig, we played at a bar. My quartet played at a bar. It was an incredibly cold winter's night in Montreal. We got there, our instruments were absolutely frozen, and we played a cover of "Call Me Maybe," if you remember that.
Yes, I do.
Cover of "Call Me Maybe," and then directly attached to the Grosse Fuge of Beethoven.
Oh, I love this. This is so great.
And the one thing they had in common was the very last note of the
just one note. That's enough.
Is the first note of the Grosse Fuge.
That's enough.
It was pretty wild. There was a project that started I believe in Brooklyn, and then had also a concert in Washington, D.C., where they played the Rite of Spring live and they wanted to make it a dance party.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it was a big hit in Brooklyn, and it was sort of...
I'm sure Brooklyn is pretty insane.
D.C. didn't go so well.
I wonder why.
Was too busy networking and trying to play politics and talk, and no one was actually having any fun or paying attention. So to kind of
I mean, it's not like that awful jazz music in the background of the elevator. You can't socialize at the same time. It's impossible. Again, the Stravinsky work, especially Rite of Spring, is just here to be worshipped.
We really love playing Schnicke in a Sunday brunch setting. Go from being a sonic potted plant, as one of my teachers called it, to really in your face and grabbing and
Yep, you have to stop eating. You can't.
Yeah, sorry, you got to listen to this. And I I founded a music festival in rural Iowa about 5 years ago, and I would play in bars and in the community and in my concerts. Some of the folks, I would say a good number of folks that came up to me after performances would say they actually liked the piece written recently. I was playing a piece called C'est Papillon by Kaya Saria.
Congrats.
And I think that was really telling, because those folks they were not your typical classical subscriber. This was a untapped potential of folks that didn't know that they liked classical music. And because they didn't know that, I played Beethoven and César Franck and Sarajevo, and many of them liked the Sarajevo because it seemed more relevant to them. It was more of our time. So I think that's really important. If you were to have a magic wand and money was no object, what would you do to address some of the problems that you see in the art world in general?
So as we said, the art world, like music and dance, are very like small worlds, and so they're really close, and they usually don't come in contact or communication with each other. Well, if I had a magic wand, I would just open those worlds and just tell, like normal people, if I can call them like this, that you don't have to listen to country music only or to Rihanna only. There's something out there that is better than what you've been listening, and here is how you can access to it, and you don't have to go to a theater and like plan it 3 weeks in advance and say, okay, that's it, that's my going out for the year, just I bought one ticket for one performance. Like, there is a way that you can be both a normal person and open to the art world and know about like those worlds. So if I could, I would take like powerful men and women and just, successful people that are very clever, that are CEOs or like in politics or anywhere else, and just train them to be better leaders, but also to be better humans and to be just as sensitive that they are powerful. Because I don't think like it comes together. It's a balance that they have to find. And if you're not at all sensitive, or if you're shutting yourself off from the arts, from music, from dance, for anything, you cannot function as a human being. And so if we could build a system for them, a school, a course, a crash course for them to understand what is good music, how to go there, how to support them, what is good dance, and just make them even like play an instrument or try a dance course, a class somewhere that they can take, and so they can come in better communication with their inner selves. They would actually tell people to do the same thing, and so the art world would be more attractive if those powerful people would be open to it.
I have a friend in my aviation circle who is a retired naval aviator. He flew I believe it was a electronic warfare aircraft. Anyways, wow. His call sign is Pooh. P-O-O-H.
Why?
I still have to buy him a beer for him to tell me why.
There's always an answer. There's always a story behind those names.
There's always a story. So Pooh was telling me that when he was in training to be a naval officer, that they told them that naval officers have to be Renaissance men. To be good leaders, they needed to know about art as much as they need to know about engineering and about science. And
well, I love that. Where did he listen to this? Because I've never saw that.
Well, I forget the name of. We were just hanging out in the hangar, and I was helping him fix his plane. But it was based on the writings and philosophy of a naval officer back in the day of sailing ships with sails, and
wow,
would have been an Indian or maybe a very early American officer, but. That I really agree. I think that it's really important for anybody to be in the arts. Look, we're going to be in a period of time, whether we are right now or definitely in the next 50 to 100 years, where jobs as we know it are going to be different because artificial intelligence and machine learning and things. We were already seeing it. They're already taking over manufacturing jobs and a lot of these very difficult hands-on jobs, which the flip side is it saves a lot of labor and difficult labor for human beings, and so it makes it easier for us to achieve making the world a better place, potentially.
Exactly.
But the flip side is people lose jobs. So if you're thinking about it from an educational standpoint, like you talk about, creativity is going to be the last frontier that will be taken over by machines, if it ever will be.
Exactly, but we can also see that on the positive point of view, which means like the more we have machines, the more people want to reach out and have human connection, artistic connections, because I've seen that happen a lot. Like, I'm always on my phone, I'm always on my computer, let me just shut down everything and do a yoga class, something that they would never do before. But because they're in need of that human connection, and what is more human than dance and music? Nothing is.
I think this is maybe what you just said is maybe the basis of what we need to go forward in marketing what we do. we have to be careful, I think, to not fall in the trap of saying our music is better than your music and bend over, Mr. Fortner, this won't hurt me one bit. Sing this song, or like we can't be broccoli salesmen, right?
But yes, no, you're right. You're right.
Good
you're right.
Goal, and as you say, especially now that we are so much more digitally connected as well, literally in this moment, as we were talking about in the COVID situation. But
it's life and death.
Life and death. But when we get out of it, we're only going to be more and more connected to machines. So we have to find a way to experience our humanity. And we can philosophize this for hours, I'm sure. But I find the arts, as an educator teaching kids and also as a person who works, in the profession as a performer, and having lived my life and having taken calculus classes and learning to fly an airplane and all these things that I've done, art is the one place where the left and the right brain come together.
I agree.
And so I think I really believe what you're saying about the leaders of our time, and the future leaders of our time. The arts in education and a hands-on experience and hands-on contact with arts is really critical.
Yeah.
I wanted to sneak this in if you have like an extra few minutes.
Sure.
You mentioned before the show started a story about Alvin Ailey that I was really intrigued about. So can you talk about Alvin Ailey? Who was he?
So Alvin Ailey was an incredible choreographer. He's African American, and he saw the potential that that community has. It's such a strong community that has so much history and so much anger, and he took that opportunity and created dances where mostly only African American dancers are part of. And so the more they understand their story, the more the ballets are powerful. And what he did is that he said, listen, I am your voice. I am the speaking person of that community. And so if you're not part of this community, but you want to learn about us, please come. But it's incredible when you go to the Alvin Ailey shows, especially in like one of the smallest theater in New York called the Joyce Theater, it looks like you're entering in a place of worship and love. It's incredible. And it's not only African American people. There's like people from like all backgrounds, from all over the world, from like China to Russia to France to Africa. It's incredible. And everyone at the end of the performance is like standing up. And I've seen people singing while the performance is going because they know the songs. It's part of their heritage. They even know the dancers because he and the way his company is continuing to grow. They really want normal people to know that the dancers are part of their community. They are almost like preachers. They are here to preach their story, and so it's so clever. It's so beautiful, and I wish more people would do that. Martha Graham with American people. like Béjar with French and like Switzerland community. Just the influence of the European world on the world, on the earth. Yeah, it's genius advertising. That's what it is.
I think so. Something that we've been doing here that's quite unique with the South Dakota Symphony. It's a project that's been going on for the better part of a decade and a half.
Wow.
Has been something called the Lakota Music Project. So my boss, David Geyer, the music director of the South Dakota Symphony, when he became the music director, thought to himself, how can we make this organization a relevant part of this community? And one of the communities in our state that has the toughest time is the Native population, the American population. You're seeing that right now with the battle going on between the governor and the reservations, where they're worried about travelers with COVID coming into their reservations. So this has been, centuries of this crash, and what we've done is we've gone into those communities and we've come together around something we both love, which is music. And I think there's a right way to do that, instead of coming in being, we are the white saviors and we are here to help you.
Oh, totally.
We want to share music that comes from our culture and our history of orchestral music. And we want you to share, and we want to learn from what you've got going on. And then we come together and we actually collaborate on pieces. We recently brought a contingent of our orchestra and the Native instrumentalists and musicians to the Museum of American Indian in Washington, D.C.
Really? That's so great.
Yeah, and it was a very thought-provoking, somewhat controversial, but a really important conversation.
It has to be at the beginning. I really think it has to be, to shock people and telling them that we're doing something new.
Because like it or not, the world has many different cultures and many different opinions. I mean, even in this country, we have very different opinions. We have the red shirts and the blue shirts, and they've gotten more and more strong. And I saw this really great TED Talk about an African-American guy who was a musician who was writing a book about prejudice and racism. His question that he was trying to answer was, how can you hate me when you don't even know anything about me? But he took a really interesting approach to it, where he actually had a sit-down civil conversation with a leader of the KKK.
Oh my God.
It was an incredibly tense conversation that you can see this on.
I'm sure.
He developed a friendship with this guy. He started going to KKK rallies as a black man, and he was welcomed into this community by this person. Eventually, this leader left the KKK. He dropped out of it because of the way that this man set up dialogue. He said, I disagreed with basically everything this guy had to say, but the important thing was I listened. And I think no matter how much you disagree with somebody, how much you think you are right, you have to acknowledge the humanity of the other person sitting across from the table, and acknowledge the different perspective that they may bring and their life story. And I think the arts and music provides a really, probably the very best way to change the hearts of someone before we can change the minds of someone.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree.
So we have about 10 minutes to go, Charlotte. Do you have any parting shots, anything you'd like to share? Any visions, hopes, people in this song?
Well, I can't wait for my company to go back on stage because I miss it very much. But one of the few things that I really, really want is that I can't wait for the next, live performance with an orchestra. That really, I can't wait for that. But I'm not sure when we'll be safe again to do that. So that's something I'm just going to hold on to, a hope that, hopefully will come soon. Sure.
And in the meantime, you've got these online activities, which have proved very
exactly
powerful, very popular.
But talking about music, actually, I've reached out to one of my former teacher that is in Switzerland, and she composed music for me for those classes. So that was also a very very cool project that I never thought I would do. She never thought she would do, because she's not a really technical technology person. But she took the time to listen. So I had to do my class, right, my exercises, and count all my exercises, and then send her all the counts, making sure this is in 4, this is in 3, this is in 7, and then send her the tempo, and then she would compose the music, then record the music, then send me the music. It was such a process, but so cool. It was really incredible.
So the dance came first and then the music came second?
Exactly. In this case, please, again, do not be offended. Some people think that the music came first, but not here.
Well, that's something interesting that I discovered when I was around your company, and when I was assisting when we had musicians with the Martha Graham Company, and I think it was 2016. Was
already? Wow.
Yeah, no, right? We're getting old. Gray hairs, Charlotte.
Try to not lose them.
Yeah. So what I noticed was interesting was, at least with the Appalachian Spring, the music came first, but it was a real collaboration. Came first, and then it changed, and then the dance started, and then it changed. You have the Fear in the Night section, which doesn't appear in the same way in the music, right?
Yeah, I agree. It was a true conversation between him and her, because she definitely asked him first, but then she had directions, and then he sent the music first before she started composing, and Martha sent him a few corrections, being this doesn't work, this I would like more I don't know, strong, this more dramatic. And then she choreographed on top of it, but she had already an idea of the ballet. She knew the story, she knew the timeline, she knew what was happening when. So yeah, it's interesting to discuss what came first.
Yeah. Because
the first recording, the first thing that was done was the music, but the first idea was from her. So we don't know.
It was a very organic conception, and that's what I love about the piece. Was it's hard to tell which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's maybe what makes it such a lasting piece, perhaps. I mean, there's a lot of magic. Who knows what really makes
There's a lot of magic, but for example, have you seen the Ballet Chronicle? I don't remember who is the composer, but she did the same thing. She asked the composer to do a score for her, and then she did the dance after on the score. But then we lost the score.
Oh.
We do not have any recording of the music. We do have recordings of the dance, and so we took the dance and we had to find a new score and to put on that piece of music. And so today the ballet is beautiful and it's really working, but I'm sure it was very, very hard to reconstruct that dance on a totally new music that was not supposed to be there at first.
That's really cool. It was sort of resurrected and brought back.
Exactly. So I'm sure they had to change dance movement to make sure everything was going with the music, but I'm pretty sure the music was already composed, so they couldn't ask anyone to change the music to go with the dance. Right. So the music came first and the dance had to adapt itself to it.
Do you guys don't have any type of notation that tells you what steps are on paper like we do? You have right?
No. Yeah, no, we do not. We work by videos and photographs sometimes so we have lost many up-gram ballets, which is terrible. But we do have a lot of photographies, so we go from photographs, and then we reconstruct the ballet. But Balanchine invented that, dance notation that works for him, but only his technique, not ours.
Right. Well, maybe in 200 years there'll be a standardized notation system like we have.
I don't know, because maybe it would change the way we learn.
Yeah.
The dance, because right now we're learning the history of the ballet first, which I love. Instead of learning all the notes and then, what type of music am I doing? Yeah. Who's the composer? And after, we learn that first. So that's what I love about Graham. And then I watch videos and I pick moves from each videos that go well on my body, because maybe that move is not great on me, Yeah. Because I'm petite, because I'm thin, but maybe that woman looked more powerful when she did that move, but that doesn't work for me. So yeah, but if you see the movement on a sheet of paper, it looks very like without any choice. It looks very like you have to do this, and this is right and this is wrong, which is very narrow-minded.
Welcome to my life. Because there's very little room for part of the reason why I became a conductor, and I still play the cello, but it's not a major part of my life anymore. Is as a cellist, you have, the difference between being a hero and a bum is like this. As a conductor, I'm literally dancing, although I'm triggering things to happen.
Yes, you said dancing. You are dancing. I agree.
Yes. And there are certain basic frameworks of things like beat patterns, but even there's a lot of freedom. And I really enjoy that freedom of trying to come up with the right gesture. But even as an interpreter, as a performer, I've been burned out a little bit by the very academic way that we perform music. I think we need to, as you say, you're talking about bringing a little bit of yourself to Martha's characters. You cannot be a Martha. I cannot, no matter how hard I try, no matter how many treatises I read about vibrato from the era of Mozart, we cannot recreate exactly what it was like to be Mozart. I did not fall in love.
And you should not, because what's beautiful was Mozart being Mozart, and what's beautiful is you being you. You cannot be Mozart. That would be saying no to yourself. That would be putting yourself smaller than you are, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I did not fall in love with music because I went to a concert and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the most authentic performance of Bach I've ever seen. And then I'm like
this is Bach in front of me.
Yeah, who knows? Well, Charlotte, it's been a lot of fun talking to you.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. You're my second guest. So you're getting in while it's hot. You're going to trendsetter here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Many thanks to Charlotte for appearing on our show. Once again, you can check her out on Instagram at charlottelandreau.gram or on her website, charlottelandreau.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on State of Our Art podcast.